Hello everyone on YouTube, and welcome to another installment of Weld Fever. Some of you might remember in the last previous episode my putting this square tubing piece together here. You may recall I started off with this kind of box frame here that I mitered and welded, and then I added these pieces to the end. Well, of course they warped out a little bit for me, and that was kind of inevitable given the way this was. Actually, what happened was these were an afterthought. I had an original idea the way I was going to go. I was just going to use this part here, and then something came to me and I thought, you know, I'm going to make a table out of this, so I really need to have a little bit of a wider footprint so that the table doesn't rock and eventually fall if I'm actually doing work on it. So I added these to it, but unsuccessfully so. So what did I do? I made another one. Only this time I made it correctly. Here we have a solid bar going down here, solid bar going on this side, and these two intersecting points here were connected to it. I already welded it, so I can't really show you that, but I can show you the welds on it. I will say this, a little trick to keep these ends from warping, even though it's one solid piece. Number one, I tacked everything into place first on both sides before I actually completed the full fillet welds in here. And another trick that I did was I actually welded the piece, tack welded it, to the table. And by the way, let me say this, what this is going to be is a cutting station. Now, I believe in giving credit where credit is due. This idea is not 100% original to me. This actually came from one of my fellow YouTubers here. We're talking about Jody from Welding Tips and Tricks. He came up with a table for a portaband, a portable bandsaw. And I loved the idea. I thought it was great. The only thing that I wanted is that I wanted something that I could put my chop saw on as well. And so I decided that if I made this frame here to fit exactly my chop saw, then I could incorporate this for my chop saw and make a stand for a portaband as well, and possibly for other tools. So here's what amounts to be the biggest difference between my table and the table made on Welding Tips and Tricks. I decided that I wanted to have a platform for long stock, and so this is what I came up with here. If you'll notice, I can pull this out and also adjust the height. That way, as soon as I drill in holes at the proper side, the height of this will be exactly flush with my chop saw, as you can see here. Exactly flush. I'll have a nice hole drilled in here at the bottom, stick in some kind of a pin that'll hold it in place, and then I'll have a level surface. This will actually extend out quite a bit. It'll extend out, I think I have it a total of about 21 inches, and the same will happen on the other side. So I'll have that much support for my stock hanging out one way or the other. And basically what I did here, if you look at this, is, I'll bring it in a little bit closer, is I basically put a smaller 1.25" tube inside what I've been using for all of the stock, which is an 1.5" tubing. Works great. Same thing goes for this setup here. This is 1.25" tube right inside to 1.5" tube. Here this is an 1.5" piece that I can then slide in this 1.25" piece here. So what's left to be done on this is I have to mark out the holes. I have to get a straight edge, put it across here, find that out, and then if I choose to do a portaband, the beauty of this is the portaband sits higher, and it has a bed also, or a tabletop that you'd want to probably be able to support stock from as well. Now I can lift it higher, put another pin in here, and I have multi-function. So I can actually use this same setup, only just pull the pin and raise it higher for a portaband. And that goes for any other tool that I can think of that might be useful on this stand as well. So there it is. Okay, since this show is about welding, what I decided to do is show you the welds here that we have. I went ahead, let me show you the center section first. On the center section, I chose not to weld the entire thing straight across because that would be introducing way too much heat into this tubing and would probably cause some warping. So what I did is I tacked these up actually in the middle of the welds, and then later I ran about, this is somewhere between a 2 and 3 inch bead, center, right, and left. In terms of attaching them to the frame, the tabletop itself. I did again a center tack, and I did not weld it all the way across. In here, as you can see, these were fully fillet welded from end to end. Since I'm actually going to put some other type of tables on here, the chop saw, and also maybe another kind of a setup like Jody did on his for the bandsaw, I had to grind these down flush. So on the slide out, I was trying to minimize the amount of weld placed in there because I knew what was going to happen is it was going to interfere with the travel of this thing. And you see here it stops before we actually bottom out, which is a little bit of a problem because it causes this to be a little bit higher than the table itself when it's placed. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to probably bring down the welds a little bit with a grinder. I don't want to grind them down so much that I lose structural integrity because it's very easy to grind metal of this thickness down to a point where there's not much if any left. And the other thing I'm going to do is actually take some off of this piece of tubing itself. I'll take a little piece here off and a little piece there off and actually raise, or I should say lower, the height of this tube, and that should get it to where I have it flush with the tabletop. So imagine for 1 minute that this sliding piece is the actual table side, the inlet tube, and there you go. You see the tack welds are preventing it from seating all the way. You've got about, it's about anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch there that it won't seat. So what I plan to do in this case is I do plan to do a good fillet weld on all these, and I'm just going to reduce the size of this piece on the actual finished product. That way it'll appear, well, it actually won't seat all the way, but this structure in itself will pull forward and be flush with the table. Okay, so I decided that before I go any further, I think that I really need to attach the legs to this thing. So you can see what I've got here. I've got legs cut out. I've already pre-cut them. I've set them up in a couple of these magnets. I've verified that everything is true here, that everything is at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so here we go with some tacks. Alright, there's one tacked in. Now we'll go ahead and set up the rest. Okay, so this one's a little bit tougher because admittedly the bottom, or I should say the top of this tube was not cut perfectly square. So I'm going to have to actually hold on to this, do one tack, make sure it's still in square, do another tack, and go from there. I'll start with the outside corner. You may not be able to see this, but at least you'll see the procedure. Okay, so far so good. It looks like it's remained in square. For the most part. So I'm going to kind of, see, it's starting to pull back a bit. So we want to kind of push forward here on this piece. And while I do that, I'm going to tack this side. Okay. How are we looking? Still in square. We'll push forward again. Push a little forward one more time and tack this one. Actually, first I'm gonna get rid of this guy. That's the beauty of MIG welding for fabrication, is that you can actually hold things with one hand while you weld with the other and tack stuff up. It makes life really good for the fabricator. Okay, so let's see here. Where are we at? This side we're good. This side we're good with the pipe, not necessarily with the table, although the table has some issues, but with the pipe below we're good. Here we're square. I'm not really too confident about the end of this pipe, but it actually looks pretty good. Okay, good. On to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start welding this guy up. I'm going to do a push technique on this one here, and then pretty much do the same for most of these. Well, there it is. Now, I obviously didn't finish showing you all of the weld ups because, quite frankly, it's really more of the same thing. But anyway, there is the table in all its glory. The legs have been attached permanently, and as you can see, what I was trying to achieve looks like it has been achieved. I have it exactly at the same height as my welding table. I went ahead and I ground down some of this area right in here. That way the fit would come in closer. Then I went ahead and I took this down and I welded all these around here. It was a real quick small bead, and I ground them down because you really can't have weld bead here because we need all the clearance we can get on this thing. So once I did that, it sat flush in the mechanism. As you know, I repaired this part of it last time. It wasn't straight, so I cut out the side of it and twisted it over and retacked it and re-welded it. Now it's straight. Now it's at a 90-degree angle. And here's the moment of truth. Voila. Look at that. It fits flush on both sides, and it's totally pushed in and flush straight down. It's exactly what I wanted to achieve here. Now, it's a little wibbly wobbly, and the reason why is because, you know, this is 1.25" tube inside of 1.5" tube, and it's only one arm rather than two, so of course there's going to be a little bit of play. But that's okay, because it's not critical that this be totally locked down. Now, I will say something, that the play is probably going to be taken out of this real soon, because what I intend to do is I intend to tap a hole here, tap it and thread it, put a screw in there, a threaded knob that'll actually lock it down and keep it at a better position. Also, this, as you know, will have some cotter pins in it. I'm going to try to get them in there nice and snug. That way this won't move from side to side either. So once it's completed, we'll see if it stiffens up a little bit more. But even if it doesn't stiffen up, the point of this table is not to be totally rigid and inflexible. The point of it is to support any type of pieces that are being cut. So whether it be using the chop saw or the bandsaw, it will meet its purpose in that respect. This will slide out and pull up if need be, slide out and pull up to whatever it needs to be. And whether it wibble wobbles, it doesn't matter, because the piece will actually sit on top of there and be supported while we make our cut. And that's the whole purpose of this table. So on to the next side. I'll get that taken care of, and hopefully we'll get that squared away just like we did this one. Log on to weldfever.com for a detailed drawing of this cutting station coming soon.